I am from small town Montana. We're not talking like 20,000 people. We're not talking 10,000 people. We're talking 2,000 people for the county. 2,000. And my high school had 200 people for the county. So between my junior and senior year of high school, I was accepted to a program at Harvard University. And in order to get myself to Harvard, I had to raise all of the funds myself because being from small town Montana, you're usually not rolling in the dough. I spent an entire half a year asking everyone I had ever known for any money that they had to spare. I had people offer me $10 donations. I had people give me larger sums. I had one person give me the plane ticket. The point is, it was quite the adventure trying to even get to Harvard. I got myself out there to Boston, and I flew into this city. First time I've ever flown alone in my entire life. I had flown 3 times total in my entire life at 17 years old. And I got there. And I had met this wonderful gentleman on the plane. And he was actually going to Harvard too, thank God, at the time. And he invited me to share a cab with him. And I got to Harvard, and by golly, nothing makes you feel quite like you're out of water except being amidst a bunch of people who have obviously had all of the money all their lives. I walked into a situation living in a quad dorm room with 3 other women who had their own computers. I did not have a computer. Had their own cell phones. Definitely didn't have a cell phone. And had their own credit cards. I ran out of money halfway through the summer. I walked into this situation, and I went for it as hard as I could to further distance myself from the rest of my peers. I was taking Shakespearean acting and directing. Not exactly what Harvard is known for, but by golly, it meant that I got to work with the American Repertory Theater, and I was delighted and much more separate from my peers. Being from small town Montana, I also had never gotten the opportunity to spend time accepting things about myself that might be different. I was an evangelical Christian. I was going to Sunday school, church, youth group, and leading youth activities for younger children. I was firmly entrenched in the church and had tried to maybe come out as bisexual at one point, and then quickly recanted because the entire town knew 5 minutes after I told anyone. So I went to Harvard, and I was told that there was a GSA, a gay straight alliance of sorts, only they gave it every letter of the alphabet. I love everyone and all of their different places, but really LGBTIQSA is a little much for someone that's just stepping into a queer culture situation. However, I showed up. I met people. I actually met the first woman that I ever loved at that GSA, and I had such a blast. I had such an amazing time. I didn't go to church the entire summer. The entire summer for the first time in 8 years. Not once. I mean, I walked in at one point because I was real confused about life and I knew where a church was, but that's beside the point. And I just felt so alone and so scared, but at the same time, I was coming into this community that I'd never known that I could be a part of. I was already in the theater, and I already knew gay people, but that I could be one of them and that was okay? Are you shitting me? Like, come on. So I spent my entire summer, 8 weeks, at Harvard, learning and trying to figure out how to wake up after I hadn't fallen asleep until 2 a.m. because of all of the awful, oppressive humidity. and going to class at 8 in the morning and figuring out what it meant to do anything by myself. I have to tell you, though, friends, the worst moment of feeling like a fish out of water of the entire experience was I had to go home. I had to go home in August. I had to go back to church every Sunday, and expectations from all of these people that I really didn't give a fuck what they thought. And I had to go back to a year of high school with parents that didn't understand what it was for their oldest daughter to be an individual. I went back to having a girlfriend suddenly, and Dyke written on my locker, and all of the disillusionment that I'd always felt coming down on top of me. The best part of the story is I made it out alive. But I will never forget feeling so isolated when I came back, being so much worse than when I got there. Thank you.